Hello, welcome to Your Career Podcast. If you're a new listener, to be sure you don't miss any interviews with fascinating professionals who've made amazing career changes, plus get up-to-date career management tips, hop over to iTunes and subscribe today. For ongoing support to help you reach your career goals, attend live career coaching webinars, receive one-on-one coaching, complete online career courses, and much, much more, go to facebook.com/Jane Career Coach and take control of your career today.
Welcome to Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast that takes your career to the next level. Here's your host, Jane Jackson, author of Amazon Careers bestseller, Navigating Career Crossroads.
Today I have with me Mark LeBusque, a human, a provocateur, an author, speaker, coach, mentor, and facilitator who believes that starting with human being creates more human doing and that every human being needs to belong. Mark started marklebusque.com, and it was born from 25 years of working in environments where good work had the potential to become great work, but something was missing. The missing ingredient was the addition of a real human element where belonging and purpose intersected with the truth and authenticity. It's Mark's belief that in order to make real progress, then humans must be able to speak their truth without fear or favor. Now, he has experience across a wide range of areas, from the floor to the boardroom and operations, customer service, sales, human resources, general management, and education. He has a unique ability to get underneath the noise and find the truth in order to allow individuals and organizations to make progress. Let's find out more about Mark. Mark, it's so good to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me on, Jane. I enjoy your podcast, and I'm looking forward to being involved with this process. Thank you.
Well, I can tell you it is such an honor because I've been following you on LinkedIn. You've done some amazing videos and you're so real and honest, and everything about you is all to do with being human. Yes. So let's find out a little bit about you, Mark LeBusque, as a little boy, and what were your early career aspirations?
I think my earliest memory of my career aspirations, Jane, was to be a football player, like in the AFL. And I remember kicking a plastic football around the backyard with my dad. And I think at the time, hoping I was going to end up playing for a club called Fitzroy, which is now no longer in the AFL. But yeah, I think a footballer was the big thing for me early on.
It's quite a macho boy thing, isn't it? And so what happened then? Because when you started your career, I've looked on LinkedIn, I've been stalking you very, in detail, and you've had a really interesting career path, very heavily focused on logistics.
Yes, I have. Look, and even before that, I actually trained as a school teacher. So I was qualified as a primary school teacher for teaching 5 to 11-year-old kids, and that was really driven by fantastic role models at school, pushing me down that pathway. But I only lasted a year teaching because I struggled with the staff room and the politics in the staff room as like a 22-year-old young male in a room, and I found it really hard to cope with that. So I pushed down the pathway of the logistics business, and mainly because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And my cousin had a job working for TNT, and he was able to secure me a position with them, driving trucks and loading planes in their depot in Adelaide.
Mm-hmm. And how did you enjoy that? That was a big change from teaching.
It was a massive change from teaching. Look, I think at the time for me, I grew up in Mildura on the Murray River, and I was looking to get out of Mildura and into something a bit bigger. So I think it was exciting times, and for me to work on the afternoon shift. So I started at about 2 p.m. and finished around about midnight. I think there was just excitement for me to do something different, and I guess to learn quite a blue collar way. When I think I was sort of resigned myself to the fact I'd be a white collar worker. The blue collar thing was very exciting for me.
So interesting. But then you spent a really long career with Australia Post, and you were in business development, you were in sales, you were managing products, you got into human resources. So, I mean, that's really quite an eclectic career journey. How did that happen? So how did you move out of, well, from teaching young children to working in a blue collar environment to getting into the corporate environment? How did that happen?
I think it happened because I think from an early age, as I can recall, I found it very hard to stay interested in one particular activity, whether it was sport at the time. And then I think that happened in my career. And I remember even early days in my career, very much thinking that there wasn't such thing as a job for life. And, I'm a bit of a curious soul. So I did a bit of logistics, and then the system starts to pick you up and says, hey, we now want you to go into customer service and then into sales and then into some management roles. So I think I sort of went with the flow, and obviously you get promoted, you get rewarded for that as well. So I was happy to move around because I found after about 2 to 3 years that I started to feel a bit bored.
It sounds like you kind of were dancing in the moment and opportunities presented themselves to you in a way rather than you seeking them out. Is that what happened?
Yeah, pretty much so. I still have this little story in my mind that I'm just in the right place at the right time. And there's been a series of lucky events for me over my life that have landed me a promotion or even into what I do today. So I think there's a little bit of right place at the right time. And there's also, I think, sprinkled with you make your own luck in your career. And one thing I'm really, really big on today, Jane, is that you need to drive that career because you can't leave it in the hands of others. And moving around is not a bad thing and shouldn't be frowned upon.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Don't leave your career in the hands of others, because I work with so many people who are going through career transition as well. And so often people think, oh, my manager didn't notice what I did, or, I didn't get that promotion. No one tapped me on the shoulder for it. And I'm thinking, well, actually, you have to take the bull by the horns. You need to promote yourself. You need to actually say, hey, what about me? Or maybe volunteer for special projects so that you can develop your skill sets and then take control of your career so that you get that experience. Yeah. And so
yes,
sorry, yes. Carry on.
I certainly agree with you on that. I coach a few people today who said I was waiting and then I was surprised because somebody else got the role. And I say, I bet that person was working damn hard on improving themselves and promoting themselves and in some respects, doing that upwards management that helps them to network. So, that space you work in is fascinating to me as well. And I'm sure you come across a whole lot of those types of people.
Yeah. Well, the thing is most of us don't like to self-promote. We feel uncomfortable with it. But to be quite honest, and today I did a workshop and it was all about, hey, you guys better self-promote. And they didn't want to even talk about themselves. And I said, how are people supposed to know what you can do? It's not who you know, it's who knows what you can do. And so obviously you must have developed some really good relationships as well. So people knew you, they got to like you, they trusted you, they figured, hey, Mark can do this. And then they gave you the opportunities and you thought, well, why not give it a go? Because you especially in Australia Post, you had so many different roles and obviously were very successful in those roles. And so you've had like a long corporate career and, from teaching to blue collar work to going into corporate. It's quite interesting. And then once we get to round about 2014, that's when you made a change, yes?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So tell me that story. What happened?
Okay, there's a couple of things there. I'm going to first of all say that my passion for teaching and helping others learn, it never went away. So what I sort of think happened was about a 25-year circle for me. It took me back to my passion, which is about helping people to learn and be the best version of themselves. A chain of events got me to where I ended up, which I think the first thing was in my last role as a senior sales director, I ran an experiment in the business where I asked myself a question, which was, what would happen if I treated my people more like human beings in the workplace? So for 2 years, I ran an experiment which ended up with some amazing results around engagement, I'm going to say happiness of my people, and then finally business results. I started to have an inkling that there was something more in this, and that potentially it could be something I could commercialise. So I then went into HR. I'd always had a passion for the people stuff, and look, Australia Post were very good to me. They gave me about 16 months to do work which is not dissimilar to the work that I do today. And I was just speaking to a client today, and it gave me an inkling on two things, Jane. One was I any good at this work? And the second thing was, did I love it? And I think I ticked both boxes. So they had a round of redundancies coming up, and I took a redundancy and stepped out on October the 1st, 2014 into this whole new world, which I'm going to say early on terrified me, scared me. It also left me feeling, I'm going to say, a strong loss around belonging to a tribe, because I was a business of one now. And those initial 6 to 9 months were quite daunting, I think, and I started to doubt whether or not I had the ability to transition out of, a fortnightly paycheck into an entrepreneurial, start yourself up and go. So, elation, fear, a whole lot of things were happening at the one time.
Yeah. It's redundancy can really throw you for a loop if you weren't expecting it. Sometimes we get a little bit of time, so we think, oh, something's going to change. But when you're actually notified, it can be very, very daunting, can't it? Because it's a decision that isn't always yours. If you were offered a voluntary redundancy, that's one thing. But if it's like, oh, sorry, mate, this is what's happening, and you've got to go, then it's like, okay, thanks a lot. I've been here for 11 years. Best years of my life. so often people tend to think it's like a big breakup, isn't it? And you go through that whole gamut of feelings of, like denial and fear and anger and bargaining, and maybe I could have done something different. And yet, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can really do about it. It's happened. If you're lucky, you get a good redundancy package that sees you through for a while. And then you've got to take control of your career. So it's either get another job or set up something on your own. So what was it that made you think, entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, look, I had really made a decision. It wasn't so much about what I was going to do at the time. It was what I wasn't going to do. And that was I wasn't going to go back into the corporate world. I just think it was time. I think I'd run my race. And I certainly thought I had an approach to it that really didn't suit the system. So I didn't think there was a choice for me to go back and do it. Plus, I'm sort of late 40s at the time and thinking, hey, I really want to enjoy what I do, and I would like it to be close to purpose, even though it scared the living hell out of me to think I'm just going to walk out and how could I set something up. It was more about what I thought I could bring to the world in a broader sense than just within an organisation.
I think, it's funny. A redundancy makes so many people think about their purpose and true passion, or, what am I doing? Because, what I found is so often with my clients as well, they don't really know what their true anchor is, their career anchor. And, it could be general managerial anchor or technical functional or challenge or entrepreneurial or dedication to a cause or service. It sounds to me like yours was dedication to a cause or service right back to the teaching days, which is very much helping others, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then you sort of came full circle and you thought, I really like this human being thing. So often in the corporate world, it does become a bit depersonalized, doesn't it? And I really like this. This is what you have in your LinkedIn profile, if I may read it. So I love this so much. It says, I believe that starting with human being creates more human doing, and that every human being needs to belong.
Yes.
Oh, I think there's a song in that, Mark. I like that. There's a bit of a tongue twister as well. But it's so true, isn't it? Because that human side of stuff, you tend to really doubt it when there's a redundancy, because you think, well, hey, what about me? What about how I feel? And so for you, you took control of your career and decided to start your own entrepreneurial venture, focusing on human beings being human in the workplace. And this is what you do now, right?
Absolutely. And look, I think you talk about pivotal moments. I knew that the work that I'd done with my teams in the corporate, and also when I went to HR, I could see the impact it was having on them, not just in their work life, but outside of their work life. And look, I did some crazy things in corporate, Jane. I actually built non-work related goals into my team's performance plans and put some of their bonus against them. So a goal for self, a goal for family, and a goal for community. And
love it.
And I just knew that, I could see my people turning up happier. They were getting good results. They were working less hours. Their partners and their kids, whenever I caught up with them, had even made comments about how much more happier and engaged their spouse was. And, I have a real passion for putting the being before the doing, because we have to-do lists that are a mile long. And they're important, don't get me wrong. But we have to start to make choices on how we're going to choose to be when we turn up to do the work that's important. And that's where I start with every client I work with now, is I ask them to create a to-be list. And for me, the top of my to-be list is to be authentic. And that's the way that I guess you read those things. The other pivotal moment, my work is based around belonging. You mentioned that word belonging and I did a video on this, and I really enjoyed your podcast last week, your interview about suicide prevention, because I lost my dad 16 years ago to suicide, and because he had 2 attempts, he had an opportunity to leave us a letter in between, and he said that he didn't feel like he belonged anymore. And my business today is driven around 4 words, which are making every human belong. So when you said to me before about being clear on purpose, it makes work so much easier to do when you are very, very clear about why you do what you do. And I think that's something for your listeners to think about in transition, is don't quickly jump to the next thing. Spend the time, like I did, for a good 6 months in just asking myself a question, why? I think that was really important.
Yeah, I mean, such a moving story, and I'm so sorry to hear about your father, because that was such a tough time, because sometimes you can be in a really dark place and you just don't see what light there can be.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously really shaped the way that you view the world as well. And you want to make such a difference. And integrating, and this is what you're doing, you're integrating life, real life, with work as well, because our career and our lives, it all intertwines, doesn't it? And everyone tries to find work-life balance as if it's, like here's work, here's life, and that's what we do. But what you want is harmony, because if you can combine both, and when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's so much easier to do it, I think, than in a work environment. Like for myself, I mean, obviously, you're a coach, you're a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, and I work the way I want to work. I work with the people I want to work with. I don't want to work with someone I don't want to work with. I don't work with them. And it's nice to be able to have that choice and still to be able to make a living, because we still got to eat, right? But to do something where you feel like, today I'm going to do something really good for people. It just makes such a difference. And I think that's where the coaching, it's really important. And your career anchor must be dedication to a cause or service, because you're making a difference because of those early experiences that you have that moved you so deeply, and making every human being belong. That's all we want, isn't it? To feel a sense of belonging.
And I think that's the missing ingredient in the workplace at the moment, is we've become very good at turning simplicity into complexity. And if we go back to the simple basic needs of connection, belonging, safety, some of those things like that, and just be practical about it, things change really, really quickly. And but again, we work in a system that has been anchoring us to technical proficiency and a promotion based upon being technically good for 100 years. So it's not going to change quickly, but, one human at a time, one team at a time. That's where I look at it, as I say, what have I done today to get someone to be curious about what it's like to put being before doing.
And so how do you actually work in your business? How, if someone wanted to work with you, what do they do? How do they engage you, and what do you provide?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. I think the thing where people dip their toe in the water is I run a public program called The Human Manager, which is a 2-day program very much based around day one. The attendees are spending a lot of time looking in the mirror at themselves and, sharing some of their self-limiting beliefs and what they think they're great at or known for, assessing their management style based around 6 management styles that I look at, and then doing an activity which gets them to look at a self-improvement goal, which may not be work-related, but they then start to uncover why they can't achieve it and what they fear about, getting better at something. So day one's very much about leading self, and day 2 is very much based around my experiment from the workplace, which was the 7 steps to humanise managers. And again, there's simple things like creating a safe space, being clear on purpose. I call it life design. Work-life balance is a myth because work's part of your life. So how do you get better at design? Coaching, a bit of career development. And look, after 2 days, people start to realise that, we don't need all of the fancy stuff that we have today. We just need to get back to what it is to be connected. There's no agenda there's no pre-work. There's no PowerPoint slides. There's 12 humans in the room having a conversation for 2 days and connecting. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I have a book that came out last year called Being Human, which is sold in 17 countries now, which I'm really quite proud of. And that just that's really got the secret sauce in that around here's what you need to do to take some of the robot out of your style and put more human back in. And they're the main things. I also do something which is a little bit novel called Provoking with Purpose, where I work with dysfunctional teams who deny they're dysfunctional, and I simply help them to point out the things they're doing in the room that are not helpful for them, such as rolling their eyes when other people are talking and, cutting each other off and all those things we see in workplaces. So that's pretty much my work. A bit of speaking, some coaching. I'm actually off to the Hunter Valley tomorrow to do some work with Brown Brothers at their conference and just the keynote there. So I enjoy that as well, but very much human-centered work.
It's such important work as well. And the way you express it is so humble, but you're obviously changing lives, Mark. And so this book, which is called Being Human, Why Robots Are Not the Answer to Business Success. What a great title for a book.
Thank you.
And so now we can find this where?
Well, you can find that on my website, which is www.marklebusque.com. One of the things, and it's also on Amazon, but you'll find it in both places. The ones bought in Australia, I personally sign them all. I think it's a human thing to do. So you can find it there on my website. It's done quite well. The thing I like best, Jane, is the little emails I get back from someone who said, hey, I tried that thing and it really worked. And I think, that's important to me to hear that people are using the practical common sense things to become better human managers.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're really bringing that human side back into the corporate world, because so often, right now everything is being automated. So many things are being automated, outsourced, offshored, and it's almost like, well, hey, what about me?
Yeah.
I'm just a person trying to make a living, and I want to enjoy being with, nice people, on a day-to-day basis. And the workplace has become a little bit dehumanized in a way. And so you're bringing that back and making people realize how important it is to communicate genuinely, to be authentic in everything that they do as well. So thank you. I think you're really bringing a lot of value to so many people in the workplace, and also outside of work as well, which is amazing. And so people can find you at your website, which is marklebusque.com. And I'll have all of these on my show notes at janejacksoncoach.com. But you also have a Facebook group that people can join and get support from you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I really encourage people who join it to actually contribute to it as well. Like I like to put up my videos and things that I'm up to and clients I'm working with. But I reckon the power of it comes from when others share their own experiences and stories about it. So my Facebook group is called The Human Manager, in brackets, People Before Profit. And I'd really encourage anyone to come along and join that and be part of a really, I think, human group.
Yeah, and I just joined it today too, so you can expect to see my name popping up all the time because I've got plenty to say.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
which will be so good. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time this evening and telling us a little bit about you and sharing your story. We really appreciate it. And I hope to have you back again, and you can tell us a little bit more in depth about the programs that you provide to everybody as well.
Fantastic. And look, I really think this is great what you're doing and providing this for the listeners. So thank you very much, Jane. I'm humbled to be involved.
Well, let's just continue giving to as many people as we possibly can. Thank you so much, Mark. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, look for Your Career Podcast on iTunes and leave a review. And for all the career management support you need to create your dream career, visit janejacksoncoach.com and join my Careers Academy for live career webinars, group coaching, one-on-one coaching support, as well as my online career development courses. Isn't it time you found your dream job?
You've been listening to Jane Jackson Careers. Sign up to receive regular career advice at janejacksoncoach.com.